2024 was a packed year for Astroneer, but as we look forward to 2025, here are 5 things I want to see next year. Number 5, more updates. I'm not complaining about the amount of updates we got last year, I just want to see the same amount of consistency. In 2024 we got quite a lot of updates. The first one was the revamped events, starting with the breakdown event, which in my opinion was the best one in all of Astroneer. It lasted for a couple months and there was no way you would complete it on the first day it came out like you could basically any other event. This was a gradual event with new stuff coming in every couple of weeks, and you actually had to use gameplay and go into the caves and search for items. You couldn't just automate it in half an hour and complete it. So I really enjoyed the revamped events this year, more on that later. Then we had the Verdant update, which notoriously introduced the tappers, but also 5 new plants called the tappables, one for each major planet. However, this update also screwed up the power balance, which I've been talking about this past year, but then it fixed it a couple of months later, so it's all okay now. The Verdant update was a big plus for Astroneer. After that we had the road trip update with new missions and 2 new items, the XL resource canister and the large rover seat B. This was a smaller update, but it was still pretty cool. And then the biggest one of them all, in November we got the Glitchwalkers DLC. This is Astroneer's first and only DLC so far. If you haven't played through it, please do it. You're gonna enjoy it. If you liked the base game of Astroneer, you're gonna like the Glitchwalkers DLC. It's such a cool thing that they did. It provides a lot of story, new gameplay opportunities, and it also introduced storms back into the base game of Astroneer. You don't have to buy the DLC to experience those. That was a free update that just came along in the same day. So all in all, the devs did an amazing job this year, and I hope to see at least as many updates in 2025. And here are some of my update ideas, but feel free to add to these in the comment section below. I was thinking maybe we could get seasons, like different seasons on different planets. Not all planets should have 4 different seasons. Some planets could just have 1 season, like Glacio, or have 2 different seasons. Imagine how cool it would be to have Silva divided into spring and autumn, or the Solo could have summer and winter on the bright and dark sides of the planet. The seasons could also come about only with events, and that would be a really cool thing to shake those up as well. Now the next thing, I was thinking about a new vehicle, and I came up with the idea of an auto train. This would drill, pave and place rails automatically, and it can be driven like a rover. Imagine how cool that would be. I have no idea how they would actually implement that. Then maybe we could also get another Snail, but we'll talk some more about that later in the video. I would also like to see new missions expanding the story. For example, we could get some of Frank's backstory, or maybe his future story, like what happens to him after the events of the Glitchwalkers DLC. We could also get a new pet like Eva. She's not a snail but a fox. So for example, we could have a dog, a bird or whatever else, and it would also have to give us a pretty cool buff. I would love to see that in 2025. But what if we actually get bigger tier items like the XXL tier? Bigger vehicles, bigger shuttles. But on that subject, what if we get a backpack upgrade, like a bigger backpack that you can hold more stuff into? I know for a fact I have personally been asking for that for the last, I don't know, 8 years. Actually, a lot of people have been asking for that. And last but not least, maybe we can get some new plants, because if you think about it, Aeolus doesn't have any plants that are specific to that planet. So maybe we could get some new tappable or any other type of plant. Number 4, improved events. As you might have noticed, the devs put a nice new spin on almost all events of 2024 leading to the Glitchwalkers DLC. All the events were revamped, they were different from last year's events, except the cheer delivery event. That was the Christmas event, which came after the DLC, so I guess there's an excuse there. They didn't have enough resources to also revamp this event, because producing and coming out with the DLC took a lot of resources. I understand that. It's just that the cheer delivery event this year felt a little bit underwhelming, especially after all of the cool events we had this year. So for 2025, I hope we see even more innovation in events and new ways of completing them instead of just crafting last year's items again with the exact same recipes, because that gets old after a while. And I really like the thing they did with the chips this year, where you could get these chips and get a little bit of lore on the future story of the DLC. I hope they continue to drop more story development in 2025, and I also hope to see new cosmetic rewards instead of recycling the old ones. I have nothing against bringing an old cosmetic back so that other people can also have it, but if you recycle all of them from last year, then you end up with people who get nothing from a new event. For example, I got absolutely nothing from the cheer delivery event because I already had all of the items unlocked. I would have enjoyed it if there was at least one new cosmetic so that I could say I got something for Christmas from Astroneer, but they did drop some free cosmetics in the shop, so I can't complain too much about that. Number 3, new Snail. Why would we need a new Snail? Well, Aeolus is the only Astroneer planet without one. And we all love the gastropods in Astroneer, so having a new one would make everybody happy. Do you remember when the gastropods update first came out? That was the single biggest update to date of Astroneer because it introduced all the gastropods all at once and all those cool missions with the xenobiology lab and all of that. That was awesome. So having a new snail introduced in a new update would be cool. And this also ties into the point I said before about having more updates in 2025. One of them could be this snail. And I have some ideas for what gastropod we could get. For example, we could get the villain snail. This was mentioned in a lore chip earlier this year. So if you read all of that, or if you watched my video on all of the lore from the chips, you know that the villain used to have a snail, but then something happened to it. So what if we could get an update next year and we actually get the villain snail? I wonder what kind of buff that would give us. Maybe the ability to glitch people or to unglitch storms, something like that. That would be pretty cool. Or seeing that you can't have any snail on Eolus, maybe we can get an all-in-one snail. So you know how when you go to Eolus, you cannot bring any snails with you from your base save, and you also cannot unlock them once you're on Eolus. So there is no way to have any of the normal gastropods while you're on Eolus playing the Glitchwalkers DLC. So that would leave room for a unique snail that could give you all of the powers of all the snails combined in just one, and you could only use it on Eolus. That would be pretty cool. Or, hear me out, we could have the villain as a snail. Now, I won't spoil anything, but if you saw the ending of the Glitchwalkers DLC, you might understand where I'm going with this. Number 2, a way to earn Qbits. If you don't know, Qbits are Astroneer's store currency, and you can use them to buy cosmetics, but the only way to get them is by buying them with actual money. I have nothing against buying Qbits. I actually think it's a great business strategy and everybody's okay with it. You can get the cosmetics if you want to. If you don't want to, nobody makes you pay for any kind of subscription or season pass or anything like that. I really love the way they did this. You can buy Qbits if you want to and get the cosmetics you desire, otherwise you won't get them and it's okay. However, it would be so nice to have an in-game way to get the Qbits. Of course, you shouldn't get enough of them that nobody would buy them anymore, because that would cut into their profits. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about getting a small amount of Qbits from in-game activities, and maybe over the course of a year you would be able to buy one cosmetic. That would allow people to still want to purchase Qbits with money, but it would allow other people to gather Qbits over time and then finally purchase their favorite cosmetic. That would be pretty cool, and I have some ideas on how you could get them. For example, a new trade platform section. I don't know what you would trade in there, but you would trade some item like the fault finders or another thing for Qbits. Of course, in order for this to make sense for the devs, you would have to trade a lot of stuff for a little amount of Qbits, but I think people would still be happy with that. Or we could have them as a reward for completing events. Like every time you complete an event, you get 10 Qbits. That would also be pretty cool. Or we could have them as rewards for completing a lot of bonus tiers in the events. So like the cheer delivery event, you finish that at 10,000 points. But then you can get more points to get the care packages and complete the bonus tiers. What if for 100,000 points, you also get like 50 Qbits? That would incentivize people to keep going and have more stuff to do in Astroneer, because a lot of people don't really complete the bonus tiers after they've completed an event. So this would be an extra incentive for that. Or we could get some free Qbits as a limited time claimable in the shop. You know how we sometimes get some free cosmetic in the shop and it costs 0 Qbits, you can just claim it for a limited amount of time, but sometimes you don't really like how they look, or you wouldn't have chosen that cosmetic. What if they just gave us a small amount of Qbits that you could claim for only a weekend? For example, on a holiday, on Christmas, or on Easter, or when it's Astroneer's anniversary, you could just claim a small number of Qbits for free in the shop. And that would allow you to gather up some Qbits and someday buy the cosmetic you've been wishing for. Now, this is my greatest Qbit idea, so hear this out. You could get them as a price for selling the cosmetics that you unlocked twice. Earlier, I talked about not getting anything for the Christmas event this year because I already had all of the items unlocked before. Now imagine when I unlock them the second time, instead of getting nothing, it would register as having a double, like having the same cosmetic twice, and it would automatically sell the second one and give me a small amount of Qbits instead. That way, from the whole cheer delivery event, if I would have gotten 20 Qbits here, 50 Qbits there from all of the items that I unlocked twice, then I would have been able to gather all of those up and maybe buy a small little something from the shop with those Qbits. Then I would have felt like I still got something from the cheer delivery event, and this would also fix the issue I talked about earlier about recycling old cosmetics. I think this would be one of the best things that they could implement next year, and I really hope to see something at least similar to this in the game someday maybe. Now let's get over to number 1, a new DLC. I know, this is a lot to ask for, and it probably won't happen in 2025. In all honesty, it could take a couple more years before we get another Astroneer DLC, and that's only if we ever get another one. As you might know, System Era, the Astroneer developers, have been acquired by a bigger studio, and they might have to focus on other games in the future. What I'm hoping is that they don't become a support studio focusing on other people's games. I hope they get to do their own next game, be it Astroneer 2 or any other game. The moment System Era comes with their new game, like whatever comes next after Astroneer, I'm gonna be there for it, because they are an awesome developer team and they do amazing games, like Astroneer, which is like my favorite game ever. You know, it's actually up there with Assassin's Creed for me. And they almost have the same exact logo, by the way. That's a nice little fact. But anyway, if they don't start working on their next game, they might consider getting a new DLC for Astroneer. And by the way, I wouldn't expect to see Astroneer 2 anytime soon, so don't hold your bet on that. Still, I have to put getting a new DLC on number 1, because it would be the best possible scenario ever, even if it's extremely unlikely. And I know that some people weren't too excited to hear about the Glitch Walkers being a paid DLC, but personally I think it was worth way more than the asking price of $9.99, and I would be happy to pay double that for the next DLC if we ever get another one. Now I also have a follow-up DLC idea. What if they expanded on the Eolus system? Because right now there's only one planet called Eolus, but even the developers said it will only be one planet for now. So that statement gives me hope for the future of Astroneer and maybe for a future DLC. I'm really hoping to get it in 2025, but even if we don't, maybe we get it in 2026, I will be waiting for that. So if it ever happens, that would make me extremely happy. And these could be amazing planets, like Eolus has this central theme of being glitched. Maybe each planet in this system will be in a new DLC, and each planet has its own theme. The way Eolus is glitched, maybe another planet has another theme going that ties it all together and has also its own story. I would love to see that. But don't forget to subscribe if you enjoyed my content this year and you want to see even more next year. I hope you had an amazing 2024 and I wish you an even better 2025. And for the last time this year, cheers, Astroneers!